Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Podcaster with me, Jennifer Fierro, here in the Highland Lakes, joined once more with Daniel Clifton, who is writing up the Canyon Lake Hawks for TexasChalkTalk.com. As always, all of our stories about the Hawks and District 13 4A Division 1 can be found on TexasChalkTalk.com. Daniel, I've added Lano to that repertoire now because football has been such a big hit here in the Highland Lakes. And since I cover Orlando already, I figured Coach Green would like well, maybe not this week, because Yellow Jackets have lost two straight in district play for the first time probably since 2018 or 2019. So that's a bit of history he would probably like to forget. But at any rate, we are going to be talking about last week's games, and then we'll get into this week's contest. I know that Burnet is traveling to play Canyon Lake. You're going to face a very confident Burnet team, I think, and I look forward to getting into the weeds with you on that one. But first, let's talk a little bit about the battle for Burnet County. I'm happy to report that the Mustangs did give Burnet everything they had. And I say that because it was a 24-0 loss, but that game was actually a little closer than it appeared. For 22 minutes, that was a scoreless game, 0-0. And then
Wow.
Burnet scored 10 points in the last 2 minutes. Um, they went down and scored and then kicked the ball off to Marble Falls with about a minute left in the game. Marble Falls went 3-and-out. Burnet got the ball back with about 47 seconds left, went down and kicked the field goal. And because Burnet won the coin flip, they deferred. So they scored on their opening drive of the third quarter, 3 plays. Dash didn't right up the A gap. And for those of you who may not know, the A gap is the gap between the guards and the center. So right up the middle, scored on about a 40-yard touchdown run. Marble Falls, I believe, goes 3-and-out, and Burnet comes back and scores again. And then it's a fast game. That game starts at about 7:30. We're done at 9:30, including a 28-minute halftime. 2 hours. 2 hours. Now, part of the reason why is because Marble Falls dropped 7 to 8 back in the secondary, refused to let Burnet beat them with the skinny post. They refused to do that. And that's why Burnet was able to rack up 279 yards on the ground, 40 yards in the air, 319 yards total. Marble Falls had 162 yards on the ground, and I'm going by what the Burnet coaches turned into me. Okay. Marble Falls may have a different total. Marble Falls did pass for 20 yards, 182 yards in all. Where Marble Falls, where Marble Falls was hurt, the Mustangs had 70 yards in penalties, but
Hmm.
25 of those yards were in the first quarter. Holding calls, false starts, and that sort of thing. And I go back to what I said to you last week. Even though I don't think Coach would appreciated it much, because he did acknowledge that, and he did not acknowledge, he said his offensive line played very well last week, and they did. But you dropped 7 back in the secondary. At any rate, where I think Marble Falls was, where Marble Falls continues to be challenged in the slot T offense, in an offense that is run first, there's nowhere to hide your offensive line. So those false starts by your linemen are glaring. Those holding penalties by your linemen are glaring. So you may have an explosive play, or you may get a play that goes for more than 3 yards. But if your kids are holding, those things come back. And we saw some of that on Friday night. So that's where I'd be very, very curious to see what adjustments Marble Falls makes as they now turn their attention to a Taylor Ducks team that is also winless in the district. And there's no question this game means a lot to both teams, especially with Taylor still having to play Burnet in week 11. So if Taylor beats Marble Falls, then their goals are still in front of them. They've already lost to Lampasas. They've already lost to Davenport. I think that they have a better offense, and we'll get into all of that in the next segment. offensively, I think they're better in 2023 than in 2022. But we'll see and talk more about that here in a few minutes. On your end, though, both your game, I think Canyon Lake and Davenport played each other last week, correct?
Yeah, Davenport just was a juggernaut. I mean, there's no way they put up 70 points. They had 42 points at the half, by the half. Canyon Lake didn't get on board until the third quarter. I think it goes back, and you mentioned the slot T, and Canyon Lake runs that. But where it really was, if you watch the game, where it was won was on that line. Davenport just had a fast, big line that controlled the line of scrimmage, both offense and defense. And they have enough kids where they don't have to do a lot of Ironman football, so they don't have to substitute as much. No excuses. They were just a good team. That's all it was. They had, Tristan Hamlin, a quarterback, put up 340 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. I mean, they had 100. I forgot what the lead rusher was, but they were just all over the place. And I think they were very pass heavy that game, and I was expecting more of a run game because of the one running back there. But Emmett Grumman Mason Falcon had 107 yards. That was a lead rusher.
Yeah.
So it was just a
Yeah.
really powerful Davenport team. And I know Davenport came into the season looking to be district champs, but they want to go much deeper because, let's face it, this could be their last hurrah in 4A. They should move up to 5A. No excuses any team losing to them on that. It's just that's where their numbers look to be going. And so I think they want to make a big, big splash going out of 4A. And they expect to keep running the playoffs.
And I think for confidence, where they are confidence wise. But I will say this too. I have covered a Marble Falls program that went back to back years in 5A Division 2 to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that district is much, much different than the district that they are in 13-4A D1. I think that the 13-4A D1 is a much tougher district. It's a the team, there's a lot more parity in this district. It's a much better district than the district that Marble Falls was in 5A. I look forward to having that realignment discussion with you at some point, because I know that has been a topic of discussion in Marble Falls regarding what we're looking at and how far we can go in this, that, or the other. The other game that happened in the district last week, like we talked about, Lampasas and Taylor played each other, and it's really been a shootout with Taylor. Taylor has given up a lot of points to both Davenport and Lampasas, and I'm talking where they're giving up between 50 to 60 points, it looks like. I believe that's right. And that's where I think it's very, very interesting, because Marble Falls really is not a program that has scored a lot of points. But I do think, and I'll be curious to hear your thoughts after you see the Canyon Lake Burnet game, I think that plays right into what Burnet wants to do in week 11. Now, we've still got a couple more games to go before we get there, but it's just if everything holds up the way that I think that it will, Burnet and Taylor will play each other at Bulldog Field for the 4th place spot and the final playoff berth. I just think Davenport will run the table. I think Canyon Lake and Lampasas, 2 and 3. I think they'll duke each other out for that. And by the time Davenport visits Marble Falls, the rest of the top 3 teams of the district should be decided at that point. And that's assuming that Davenport or Lampasas, whoever, one of those 2 teams I think will go undefeated. And then the other team that doesn't only loses to the district champ, which really surprises me. That is not at all what I thought we were going to see this year. Not at all. Okay, with us, broad podcaster. I'm Jennifer Fierro. He's Daniel Clifton. We're going to switch over now and go to segment number 2. Please stay with us.